All right, here we go with the Unit 10, fourth lecture, Chapter 13, Section 4, the California Gold Rush, pages 439 and 443. Um, First thing you need to think about is, where did we get this land that we are going to be finding gold in, which is California? And if you look back at the last lecture over the war with Mexico, you will see that we get this land from Mexico after the war as part of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And the land that is known as California today is included in what we call the Mexican Secession. And that was all covered in Lecture 3. A discovery changes California. In 1849, James Marshall discovered gold in the American River in California. This discovery led to one of the greatest migrations in American history, and migration meaning people moving from one place to another place. And thousands poured into California. Now, the American River is right here on this map. This is Sacramento right here, and then SF means San Francisco. This would be the Pacific Ocean. Up north would be Oregon, Washington. This would be Nevada, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's where we're looking at the American River, a little short little river system. In 1849, people started racing to the American River. This started the California Gold Rush, what we're talking about. People who went west to find gold in 1849, if you look at the 49 up at the top of the screen, right here, 1849, they were known as 49ers. Makes sense, right? It was estimated at this time that there was enough gold in California to pay for the entire war with Mexico and then some. This led people to believe that you could just walk out in California and there would just be gold laying on the street or in the just on top of the ground, just like as common as rocks. When in reality, that's not the case. It's very difficult to mine gold, and that's what these 49ers found out. Thousands of gold seekers went west, and they had basically three options of how to get there. The first one would look at, we're going to be, if you look at this map right here, we're going to be leaving the east coast of the United States pretty much from all of these routes. The first one, which would be A right here, is that they would sail 18,000 miles around South America, come up here all the way to California. Obviously, that's a very long journey. You have to deal with the Straits of Magellan down at the very bottom here. Very treacherous path. The second option, which was just as dangerous, didn't take as long, but just as dangerous, if not more. You leave from the East Coast, you go down here to Panama, which is this country, this short little stretch of land. You would unpack all of your things, you would get out, you would trek across the jungle here, and hopefully not catch a tropical disease, but it's a possibility that you would. That was one of the dangers. You would get on a ship, and then after you crossed the jungle, you would get on a ship and then go sail some more until you got to California. So that one's a little shorter, but still a little bit more dangerous because you are crossing over the jungle, and that's not good. And the last option is you would leave from the East Coast and then travel one of the trails west and end up in California, and that is a terrible green arrow. So yeah, all of these have their disadvantages and advantages. Some take a really long time, some are a little shorter, but still just as dangerous. Most of these people that are traveling these are going to be young men because they were the only people that could withstand such a journey. An older person probably wouldn't be able to do it. Changes for the Californios. Before the 49ers came, to California. California was populated by as many as 150,000 Native Americans and almost 6,000 Californios. Or these people are settlers of Spanish or Mexican descent. That means that their grandparents, great-grandparents, maybe their parents were from Spain originally or from Mexico, and they've always known California as their home. They are not immigrants to California. They have always known California as their home. What group does this sound like? They are very similar to the Tejanos, who are residing in Mexico and of Spanish descent. Californios usually owned large cattle ranches, so they own huge stretches of land and usually raise cattle on those. One famous or important Californio was Mariano Varalho. He owned 250,000 acres. 250,000 acres. That is quite a bit of land. If you look at it, that is about one quarter of a million acres. And the Louisiana Purchase was 5 million acres. So he owns quite a bit of land if you really look at it. And not to mention, he has awesome sideburns. All right. The Gold Seekers. Who are these people that are going out there? 2/3 of the 49ers were white American men, mostly young men. Other groups are represented in the gold mine as well. One of those groups are Chinese miners. They came to America to escape the hardships in China. And by 1851, 1 in every 10 immigrants to America was Chinese. The Chinese would take over sites that American miners had left because the easy gold was gone, and through hard work, these Chinese miners would make these sites profitable. Basically, the American miners would get the gold that was right here in this area, and then they would leave because it was too hard to go any further down. And the Chinese workers would come in and they would work hard and get all the stuff that was down here because there was still more gold, and they would make these sites profitable. And some Americans envied the success that the Chinese had in these played out or old sites, and they started making fun of the Chinese customs. As the number of Chinese miners grew, so did the American resentment to them. So the more there were, the more Americans hated them. Gold camps started popping up. These are tents. So miners would live in these tents. Tents are all the way out here. All of this, all of that over there. And soon tents gave way to buildings, saloons, hotels, things of that nature. So towns started exploding, basically. There was just new towns overnight. Stories went around these camps and towns of miners who struck it rich by finding huge 8-pound gold nuggets, which is a great story, but not really reality. That's not really what happened. People did not strike it that rich overnight by finding huge 8-pound nuggets of gold. Mostly what you would find is gold dust, or which is still valuable. I mean, you can still use that. Little gold nuggets, but not 8-pound. In reality, few miners ever got rich. And mostly it's because they have poor living conditions and their basic supplies are outrageously expensive. So what would happen is what you would buy, or what you would find in gold, you would have to spend on basic supplies. Poor living conditions killed many miners, not to mention mining gold was very hard, and miners had to pay very high prices for basic supplies. For example, you want an egg for breakfast. Well, that egg's going to be $3. $3 for one egg. Seems like a lot of money, right? Well, now what you have to think about is that's $3 in 1849. So what we see is a very large increase in the prices when you look at today's prices. So eggs, if you look down here, right here, right It was $3 in 1849, and then today one single egg would be $83. Shovels down there at the very bottom be $1,000 for a shovel. Pretty outrageous. So what you would do is you'd get gold, but then you'd have to spend it on these basic supplies, and then you'd be out of money again. The final impact of the gold rush. The gold rush peaked in 1852. While it lasted, 250,000 people flooded into California. By the end of the gold rush, California had enough people in it to become a state. It applied for statehood, and it was admitted as a free state in 1850. The population explosion ruined the lives of many Californios. The Americans did not respect the Californios and took away their land and legal rights. For example, the guy with the sweet sideburns, he was left with only 300 of his original 250,000 acres. So he is left with about 0.01% of his total overall land. Yeah. Native Americans and foreigners. Thousands of Native Americans died because of diseases brought to California by 49ers. Settlers killed thousands more of these. It's just like the situation when we talked about the conquistadors coming in to run over the Incas and the Aztecs way back in the beginning of the school year. It's just like that, but in California. They don't have the immune system to deal with it. The Native American way of life was impacted also because miners diverted and polluted rivers. So if a river is flowing down this way and you find gold over here, you need water over there to mine this gold. The process of gold mining takes a lot of water. So what you would do is you would put a dam in right here and then divert the water flow that way. So no more water flows down south. So if Native Americans are fishing usually right here, they're going to be out of luck now because there is no river any longer. The miners also took over hunting grounds, just like the fishing grounds. So all of this adds up to, by 1870, the Native American population dropped from 150,000, not 200, 150,000 to 58. If it'll pop up, 58,000. So that's just a matter of 20 years, basically. Foreign mine tax. One of the first things that California's state government did was they passed the foreign mine tax, which imposed a tax of $20 a month on miners from other countries. But remember, $20 a month is not 2012 money. It's 1849 money. So that would probably, 2012, probably be $700 to $800 a month on top of the things that you have to buy, like $80 for an egg. You know, I mean, you're going to be running out of money quick. So this meant that most immigrants were driven from the mines, and most of them opened up shops. This is what leads to the creation of Chinatown and things like that. Economic effects of statehood. San Francisco became a huge port city. The population exploded from 400 people in 45 to 5 years later. 5 years later, only 5 years, we get to 35,000 in 1850. That would be like the city of Washington, Missouri, growing from its current size right now, 15,000 people, to the size of St. Louis in 3 years. Be a very rapid growth. And with all that growth, what are you going to need? You are going to need more food and supplies. And how are you going to get that? You're going to grow them. So towns around this, like Sacramento, became the center of a very rich farming region. One legacy that the 49ers left was the water system. What I was talking about was, you know, they have a river that flows this way. They need to get the water over here, so they put a dam in and it flows that way, and that means there's cities over here now, and we divert it this way, there's cities over here. So what it does is it lays the groundwork for the system that serves California today. That's what the 49ers do. On a national level, California's statehood upset the balance between free and slave states, which is obviously bad news, which is something that we've talked about at great length. And conflict over this issue would threaten the survival of the Union, or, cause people to fight about slavery and all that kind of stuff. So that is the California Gold Rush. That's the last lecture for Unit 10. So, all right, work on some stuff. See ya.